are fabulous. Thank you for being here. Let's pause this. Okay. Onward and upward. Thank you for being here. Let's make sure we're in the red here. Right, how we doing? Check, Mike. I uh the only way I know the quality of the audio is by watching my little meter here. And so as long as I'm in the orange, hopefully it's loud enough. I compare what I do to a lot of the other YouTube channels, just as far as their content. We all do that. And I can see my hair in the back. And so I have a certain kind of, from my training, I have, certain things that I look for and certain, I've talked about this, the design ethic of what I'm doing and all of that. And so, I want to have a clear presentation. And even though I have a somewhat lo-fi image of myself, I do that just mainly for aesthetics and not because I don't have a better quality camera, although the better, is, relatively speaking. And so I have a certain look on this. I do. I have described these videos as Aronmix vehicles. And that's what we were just listening to, an Aronmix. And so this is one of the latest Aronmixes that he gave me four. And so this is the 22nd of the 2022, which seems fitting. And so, like this is about as early as I can get a video done to play the latest Aronmix, and I have a few more that are, like I said, that are new. There's a set of four that he gave me. And this is the Run Around and Dance mix. So, as part of the, in the studio here, it's, so I look at the other channels and I see, a lot of them, the mic is within the picture. It's that close to the person's face, and mine, it's not. It's about a foot away from where I speak, and it's kind of in the line of access of where my the layout of all my my desktop is, and so I find it interesting. You get a good wide, high definition shot, and there's a microphone, which I don't necessarily mind, but it's like, well, that is awfully close, and I compare it, not from their aesthetics, but like technically. I guess the technical aesthetics of how far away their microphone is from them and relative to mine. So as my aesthetics, I don't like having the microphone in the image. And so fortunately for me, I don't have a way to put it in my face. I mean, actually I do, but that's, over with the stuff that I have packed up with the Power Mac studio. I have another to-go studio to-go that's going to get installed in the van when that finally does get, fixed. And I do have an update on that it's being looked at in the shop. They've moved it. The tire has got air in it now. It got switched around. I've seen it move, but I don't have an update on the estimate of what it's going to cost. So it's slow going, but they've moved it. And so, all right, there you go. There's your update on Kermit, the green Ford Econoline 150 mobile, tiny mobile studio that I'm going to be moving in eventually. And then hopefully moving out west to with a friend. Anyway, that's not the purpose of this update. Although for those of you who are interested, who've been kind of working with me and helping me on this, I thank you. Bradley, Jacqueline, Pamela, and a number of others of you on the Verde's Top 10. Terrific 10. All right, so this is an observations video. By the way, it's pegging the meter, so if that's distorting or something, do let me know in the comments. I'd rather have it kind of pegging the meter being a little too loud than people complaining, oh, can you turn up the volume? Because no, once I do the video, I can't turn it up at all. I suppose I could redo it. I think I can once it's been posted, I think I can edit it to some respect, but I don't think I can normalize the audio once it's been, sent out as a published video. I can take, because for the copyright interests, they allow you to chop parts of your video out, and you can replace the music and stuff like that. But I don't think I can normalize the video to bring it up. So that's why I'm fine with it kind of pegging the meter. Otherwise, even though it's kind of going against my technical training on this, I'm like, yeah, F it. People have complained about it being too quiet. No one's complained about it being too loud. So there you go. So either way, if you got a complaint, put it in the thing, file it in the circular file. Okay, so on that cheery note, I have opened the Schumann Resonance's Facebook page. I'm admin for this. This is one of the two. I don't own this. I didn't create the group, but I'm the acting admin, and I came in toward the end of 2019 into this, as a member. And so for a year I was a member, and then I became a moderator to replace Tim Hall, and then now I've been an admin for a year, over a year. In the beginning of April, I was made like April Fool, April 2nd, I think it was, of last year, I was made admin. And so I now have the group. It's not by me, but the association was by me. So I've been the longest running member here. So and I'm the acting admin. I post everything. This is my work. And I do a lot of writing for the Facebook. This one first, it's got a lot of members. And the other one I have is a private group. That's what I call the advanced, the graduate level. This, I try to keep things a little simpler, even though I post pretty much identical stuff on both. Sometimes, I'll dedicate a little bit more time to my own, the one that I'm the owner of, and not the one that I signed. This is an affiliation. The group is not by me, but it's an affiliation of me. And so because I do the most work here, it's like the other admin is absent. No one's removing him. He's the one that put me on. Certainly couldn't remove him. But, this is me here every day. This is my work. There's a lot of work putting this in, but I do post the script. A lot of times the script is what I do here for the Facebook, and make sure that the public understand it. All of the Schumann Resonance stuff is free, right? There's not a fee to go over there, right? If you're on Facebook, the group is open and you can go over there and see it. And so I do, I do stuff for the public, right? This is just part of the deal. And the payment is say thank you. That's what I'm getting paid to do. Or you know what I'm saying? But there isn't a monetary payment. There's not really a reward other than when people say, hey, thank you for explaining that in a way that I've never heard before. Right? Oh, and today, I actually changed the name to Schumann Resonances. It was Schumann Resonance for a while. It was the Schumann Resonance, and then Stefan dropped the, and then today I picked up the S because it's appropriate. I want people to know it's plural. There's a series of harmonics, and this is what's really important about this. All right, so I think that I'm looking up at the parking lot. I'm in the basement, and so I see the car lights coming at head level, as it were, and so it's like, all right, what's going on up there? Anyway, so onward and upward. All right, so I needed to do one of these. I haven't done one in a while. I've done a bunch of stuff, the Ascension kind of Ascension based, and I've been doing a lot of writing. and I need to make some videos on the frequency, the whole thing about explaining frequency, rising frequency, and brainwave state, and all of that. Um, and so I'm going to be getting into that, I guess soon, like after I make this, and in theory, uh, theoretically. Thank you all, first. Thank you all for being here. This was an Aronmix. Before I get into the actual material, this was an Aronmix. He, gave me a bunch of, new mixes that, I want to kind of work out. This one's 2 hours. I'm not going to play 2 hours of it. I don't want this one to be too long. Even though mine are, crazy length, I try not to make them too long, like an hour. I try and aim for an hour if that, so depending on the material. And because I don't edit them, I just run them right through. It's a pain in the ass to edit them and just to take out a few seconds here and there, so I want to just kind of, and that's why I have a script. I want to stay in script. So this is one of the first, hopefully, of a few. Yeah, the frequency ones. I have a bunch of, like stuff. If you're on any one of my, I have the links. If you're on one of my things, like the Patreon or all of that, you'll know I've done a bunch of stuff on the frequency and rising frequencies and all of that, and the brainwave state and all of that. So I'm going to be getting into that soon. Like I said, new air mixes, new videos. There you go. Okay, from me to you. If you're new here, welcome. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate, I kind of check, I think we all do, that who have a channel that are putting out content. We look at our subscription numbers. I have 2.74, and so I've recently gained, I had 2.71 for a while, and so I've recently gained, a few hundred more. So thank you. Dozens anyway. Certainly a bunch of you recent, thank you. So it's time to do a video. I thought, while you came here, there's enough videos there that you can look through, and especially on some of that higher order stuff. But onward and upward. I gotta keep putting out some more. So it's time. And so people love my observations videos because I give a run through of the Schumann Resonance reports in a way that's different from anyone else. And I wish I had the time and ability and whatever to make more of them, but there's a lot of stuff that I have to, kind of, work on, write on, that's more advanced and some way more advanced than the observations videos. There's a lot going on. And so I do these as I can. And so there are people sometimes where I just get motivated. People ask me, or something's happening, or, these kind of things. And so, it's just time to do one. It's spring cleaning, as it were. So the resurrection, hey, we're going to resurrect the, the observations. I haven't done them in a while. 60 decibel picoelectrovolt spike is a good reason to do it, especially when a certain YouTube channel, clickbait channel, as I call it, I'm not going to say it by name, but a clickbait channel says it's off the chart. The Schumann is off the chart. Mother effer. No, it ain't off the chart. It's 60. It's been, y'all, you say that every single time it peaks, and it's like every single peak is literally off the chart. It's not, no, it's not off the chart. Man, it ain't off the chart. It's to the top of the chart, and it's scaled. Man, no, please stop saying that to the good kind people, because no, it's clickbait. No. So, on that cheery note, may or mayhaps not be cheery note, I feel cheerier having said that, and the fact I can't say which channel it is all for the better, because you shouldn't know what channel it is that's that bad and that egregious of a channel. Oh, can we say that? Oh, you can't even say it. Oh, the light's terrible. But it says Mr. Fabulous. Now, you know, at Starbucks they ask you what is your name, and other places do too. Like, and in those occasions at the places that ask you what is your name, you know, you should give them a wonderful name. You know, Mr. Awesome. You know, or I'm Miss Fabulous, or I'm most amazing, you know, the queen of all the civilized land, or some, you know, whatever. Just, you know, be a star for a moment and see what they call out. You know, give them a chance to announce your fabulousness. Okay, so onward and upward on that cheery note. Uh, Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to all, and visit the channel regularly. All right. And I have a little script here that I'm going to write, you know, I'm going to read, and I'm going to post this in my, you know, my description or somewhere so you can see it, because it's, you know, it's like how the algorithm works. Liking and subscribing helps out the channel, especially if it's monetized, to get the message out there to as many people as possible. Continued likes show the algorithm that many people enjoy the content. Right? So it teaches the algorithm that you know, oh, it's an enjoyable content. Right? So it does a few things. Okay, subscriptions assist with the monetization. You know, that most of all. Like you need to get at least 1,000 subs for your channel to be monetized, right? That's the first most important thing, you know. And then they have certain marks. The next one up is 5,000, and then 10,000 subs, right? So you know, there's, you know, your statistics, right? It's just on our end, the content creator's end, right? You know, like they, you know, I have my, you know, 2.7, you know, subs, like I said. So I'm over the monetization mark, the partner program, which I haven't monetized. I've been asked, you know, I still say I saved the request from them if I want to join the partner program, and it's still out there. I could, but I decided from the beginning I wasn't going to. I don't like the ads. I don't, you know, like, I don't want the ads on my channel. You know, I just want you to get the message. And I have, it's free. It's got to be accessible to people. And so it's one of the ways, one of the reasons, the means, you know, to the madness. And on the Patreon, even though, you know, early on, I had this discussion with someone that, you know, the Patreon would have stuff to the public. And this particular post right here is a public post, you know. And I think what I'm going to do is, there's one version that's the Patreon version, then I have another one that's the YouTube description that I do all the stuff on. So I think what I'm going to do is have that one as public, and then put the other one as, you know, members only, you know. But there's a bunch of stuff I have over on Patreon that, even though you got to sign up for Patreon, right? I mean, that's a minimum. It's free to the public. So, yeah, I don't have any money, a dollar. You can put $1 in the dollar in the bin, and you can get your subscription to me. I don't have any minimum on that, you know. It's important that people get the message, you know. But, you know, I need support too. And, you know, and so I also put the links to my donations bin. So please, help me out there. If you can't support me there, if you can monetarily, but you know, this is all donation. Right? All right, so I'll say that. So the subscriptions help with the effort, and helps the it also helps like as many of the other comments as you can. You know, so go to the other comments and, you know, comment on them. Say, hey, you know, you're awesome, or you're a fathead, whatever. You know, but it helps. You know, good, bad, or otherwise. You know, the commenting helps the subscriber, helps you on your end to receive the updates in a timely manner, and it helps teach the algorithm through you commenting. You know, you've put in a lot of your time and effort into commenting on the video itself, but also on other people's comments, and you rated them up and liked their whatever, right? It teaches the algorithm that, you know, oh, there's a, you know, it just teaches the algorithm, right? And so that it's important to you, right? And so that's what you got to remember. So sharing helps us all. Right? So there's share, you share a link or share it through Facebook or whatever. They give you, I usually share it through copy the link and I'll make my own link, and then I'll paste it. And a lot of places, that link that I've pasted comes up with a little thumbnail from it links it to the YouTube and you get a little preview of it. And it comes up right as there's a thumbnail. It's a built-in thing. And so I just put, sometimes, hey, great thing for you to check out. And you go to my community page and you'll see there's a lot of links that I put to different places that I want to support, share. And those have all been shared from the video itself. And I give the link and all of that because it's important. And that's how we build a community, strong community. And hey, how I get my name out there in some cases, it's the name is all, the Schumann Resonance harmonics, like, yeah, well, that's what I do. No, it's not a stupid name. It's the name of my channel. Like, and it means something. It's, it means something anyway. So, all right. So, that's the, I guess the introduction, part of this, or the first part. I'm going to play a little music and, I'm now going to be getting into the material. That's why. And so, let's see if we can move this up. Yeah, there we go. Bang. All right. And I'll leave this up here so you can kind of read it, sort of. Yeah, all right. So that's that. Let's play some, where are we? All right, so I'm going to play, it just, like a 3-minute music break, not a long break, just a song's worth. And because this is a Aronmix vehicle, right? And so I give the time code there so you can kind of skip through it if you don't want the music, and maybe it's a little work on your part. I'm not apologizing for putting Aaron's music on here, and then maybe an inconveniencing you, sorry, because I'm doing this because this is all extra credit for me, and I'm doing these because I want to have fun with them. And it's part of my design ethic. And, a lot of the people that I love and care about love the music, want the music, care about the music. So, but we got to, work through the material in a timely manner. So, on that cheery note, if you can hear what I'm saying, it's onward and upward. Okay, gotta pull it back. There we go. That's a mark. 33. Alrighty. Thank you all for being here. Was our thingamabobber. Okay. All right. We're rolling. Get the red light on. The numbers clacking away. Clack, clack. I don't know if you can hear them in the background. All right. So, onward and upward. We are on our material now. The content portion of the program. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate all the support of everyone. You know, a lot of you that watch this, I see you in the chats, Wages or Mark Pyers or, you know, what's his name? Ron, Tyler, Taylor, you know, and maybe a few other places around, there's a there's community, right? I'm part of the community. I'm I'm a content creator, but I also watch other people's videos, and I've had other content creators send people my way, and this is where you get your information on Schumann resonances based on my personal hands-on lived worked experience in radio, and I kind of go into this. All right, so the first thing is, I put out there. I was one of the subs. The reason I did this was actually because it was time to do this. I had wanted to. I had meant to do it a few days ago, but it was like, all right. So within the last, I don't know, 48 hours, whatever, someone had asked if I could do a brief on the. It was the one where it had hit the 60 the day it had hit the 60 uh picoelectric, so we're now, a few days, we're beyond this grid of obviously this graph rather. At this point in time, I'm now on the 26th at, like 8 p.m. at night doing this right now. All right. So we've moved well beyond that peak, but when it was relevant, I had just posted, it was a hit and run. Chew and screw. I didn't put any description in anything. And so one of the wonderful members of the group had said, can I get a brief on this? What, I feel there's something significant in there. And, yeah, she's, they, she, he, they, it seems a female, just from the general thing, but I don't know what they're, he, she, it, they, them, whatever. But the member, the subscriber member of the group had asked for a brief, and so like, all right, so okay, I have, I don't know how long they've been a member. I don't recognize the name, you know. You have a little hand that comes up for new members, but then after I think 2 weeks or whatever it is, the hand goes away. So they're, I don't know who's older than 2 weeks, unless I look at their thing, and I don't really do that for everyone, and I didn't in this person's case. And so I said, yeah, it's time to do that. And so, but I had told them that, in the meantime, there's over there the pinned post featured. If you go back a ways, a couple weeks, you'll find one of the observations I did, or I can't remember when the last one is, maybe 3 weeks ago or a month ago at this point. I gave a pretty comprehensive overall view of the longer version than this one here of what everything is. And I'll say this, in this one here, I've given a few different, like each one of these I do, it's not, like I'll make them up kind of on the spot, and as I, kind of things open up in my head, reminders, I just kind of put a new spin on things. And sometimes based on the fact of how many of these I've done, I can kind of simplify the process to, kind of streamline it here. So it comprises the whole aspect of it up to and including the antenna, the hardware part of it that I'm not too technical about, but I bring it in there as part of the aspect of the constraints of what it is you're seeing, right? And so based on, again, how many of these I've done, I put, kind of thumbnail paragraphs to mark a bunch of uh, topics relative to a brief on, like the spectrogram is a scientific device, yes, but it's a technical meter. It's not a detecting device, it's a measuring meter, right? It's a graphing, plotting, manufactured uh, image to give you a visual aid. And as I've been working on describing more of what the role of the spectrogram is, away from the perceived understanding of the mainstream that you hear, like almost everywhere else, of what, they look at the Schumann, right? The spectrogram is the Schumann without any of the dependency, the supporting data that comes with it, and you get, amongst everyone else, pretty much that I know of, except for a few places that, like the Ascension Diaries with Alex. She's pretty decent with it. Alexis, rather decent. I'll give her credit. I'll give her propers for having a lot of the technical understanding much better than the majority of people, right? So she's one of the few, you know. And Stefan Burns, he's got a good block on what it is, I give him a lot of credit. He's in my subs. Um, I've um, commented on his videos. Bradley went over there, made some comments on him. He's been to one of my premieres, so I have a lot of respect for him. He's a geo something student. I forgot whatever. I should remember this, but he's got a college degree. College educated, university. Smart. I give him a lot of credit for being intelligent in this area and having a really, really good idea of what the Schumann resonances are. Schumann. And so I recommend Stefan Burns. I recommend his channel. Um, he's my list of subscriptions. I think I don't know if that. I think that comes up. I don't know, whatever. But uh, so that's pretty much the two that I can think of that are spot technical on this stuff. But they still don't have the hands-on. Like clearly they don't have the hands-on uh, work with the technical hardware of all of this, the antenna, putting it all together, the filtering, the like um and I'm giving credit to the other people as being more advanced than the rest, and even then it's like you guys, especially the other one, Stefan is decent, but it's I have the hands-on decades worth of hands-on experience of in electronics, and so I really get the way it works in the atmosphere, and then the ability to pick it up in the antenna, because I've worked with antennas, I've worked with electronics, I've worked with scopes and meters, and I know how everything plugs in, and I have the studio, and I've had done videos where I've shown you the studio, and Alex was amazed, as a little side note, personal note here. When I was putting together the studio, and I was thinking of Alex, it's a two-person studio, two microphones, two everything, a mixing board for being able to plug in not only the microphones but also a musical instrument and a few other things as well. The computer, the output from the computer and all of this. I had envisioned what it would take, right? Just some simple enough equipment, and if I get the money, I can get it. But some of the stuff around I could get maybe around here locally at like a flea market or whatever. They have a big indoor flea market, and so I get the $40 receiver, Sony receiver, right? There wasn't a price on it. Uh, I asked the guy how much. He said $40. I had $40 on me. He didn't really know if it worked. I brought it home. It worked. There you go. You know, the $40 Sony was just exactly what I needed. Exactly what I needed. Right. So that's kind of what I expect. But I didn't have that. So my subs had sent me some money, Jackie and Julie, uh, and I get the board and the microphones, and so I had it in mind. But from the beginning, I had it in mind to set up uh, for two people to use it, right? And one of which would be Alex, have a microphone for him speaking and his guitar, right? And so it was really important that I envisioned this going in. So the first mixing board didn't work. Alex got that for use with his home equipment. So then we got two here, right? And so that's part of what has to happen is you got to envision it from the ground first. All right. So that's the like a side note on this of doing the technical part of the studio, right? So when I got it all hooked up together from the time that I had talked to him originally about doing this and having just like a little tiny laptop, which he wound up getting. It was an HP. There was a lot like this one. I had a little touch screen. I busted the touch screen. That part got broke, but largely it worked. So that as a tester, sit in like a mock-up of a real computer. Just it had a lot of the functionality that this thing here does now. And so getting everything, kind of plugged in, figured out to where to with the capture program and all this, a lot of technical shit. Sorry to bore you on this, but when we finally did get it worked out, and Alex saw how actually easy that it was to put all the hardware together, the just the simplest stuff with the least amount of money for the application, right? There's more expensive stuff. Ooh, like but I didn't have the budget for that. But what was within the budget, I got and it worked, and then like all right. So the first, like I said, the first mixer I tried, that didn't meet the needs. So then I found another one, made by Harman. Uh, and I love this thing because it's got a way to plug it right into the computer. And oh man, Shevitz, does that make life easier? So, and then he saw how I got it all laid out on with the two screens and how everything's all laid out. And it's all technical stuff. Sorry about this, But, Alex's first kind of response on this was, wow, holy crap, I didn't know how easy it would be to get the hardware together, right? He didn't know what you'd need for this. He doesn't do that. He's more of a software guy, like an accountant. He's an accountant. So he knows a lot about spreadsheet and how the program works. A lot of programs work internally, and he knew how to get more out of the capture, the OBS here that I use than I did, right? He's a software guy. I'm the hardware guy, Once I had the hardware up, like I don't use these freaking programs, like I'll get it to work, but I don't use it, There's a lot of programs I know how to get them to work optimally, but I don't know how to use it, or a lot of the functions. I can't say that. I know how to get it all to work, like the Premiere. There's a lot of functions in that. Like I don't know really how to use that end of it. It's real technical shit. I don't really do that, but I can do. I'll edit my own videos. I can do that. I'd normalize the audio. There's a lot of stuff in there that I can do, whatever. But it's not, there's a lot more technical shit than I know how to do. That I give credit to Alex because he can do more of that, the software technical part than I can, and fiddles with everything and has the patience to kind of, fiddle with it. And we work well together as a team when we do these things. So, so once he saw that, I showed him where I got the stuff from, and he just once he saw how the software part, the hardware part wasn't an issue, and we got him a studio. He was, he's off in running off and flying because uh, that was kind of what was holding him up. And then once he saw how easy it was, or how, like how I pieced it together, and not only how easy it was to get it, but the process, so just kind of a piece at a time and kind of fiddle it in. And, it's kind of liberating, I think, and I think that's kind of the point I'm making maybe in all this is that, that if you kind of put your mind to it, you set your intention, the universe kind of meets you along the pathway. And, people are there. They help you work on, the parts of it that you're not aware of, Um, and so, I had explained this to Alex that, from the beginning, you have to kind of design it in. And so I had known that I was going to be working with him. And some of the stuff, it all, when it's working, it's like, I'm really happy with the quality of the videos that I have now, right? Just, I and this is part of the reason I'm saying this is because the the hardware to this, the studio, the enabling of this to make the decent enough quality, low fidelity though it is, my picture, I don't want a really high quality picture, of me. There's enough there. It's still a digital picture, low resolution, it was still a digital based picture. It's, right from the camera, Um, and so, but the material, what the teaching material, like the text, that's got to be clear. The pictures, the learning material, right? That's got to be clear. And so that's one of the design ethics, that I have built into this is that, I want a low fidelity, like an AM quality video, uh, to this, but with high quality, high definition, graphics that I'm pulling from, right? Now that's because that's more important, right? I'm here, I'm present, I can see my face, I'm smiling, and, I'm here, I'm lucky, sort of, and I'm happy to do this, I'm happy to be here, But the higher quality, right, you gotta remember something too. The bandwidth, right? All right. So this is a side note. All right. I'm technical. I'm the tech guy. I'm the deep dive tech. I'm the deep dive tech guy. The deep dive tech guy. Okay. So I know stuff, right? I know technical stuff, right? When you have a non-move, a static image, all right. So even if I'm making video, all right. All right, so I'm making video. You have what's called a keyframe. All right. So a keyframe is when the image changes. All right. So it's something notably changes. Like my hand just came into the frame. That's a keyframe because it's a new, like a new element that comes into, like this, like, oh, there's a light. It's, it's covering over, it's moving, right? Here's this moving image. All right. So with me here, just by myself, there's a running, I don't know how to describe this. It's the same basic image that just moves a little bit, right? So if I don't move too far, too fast, if I don't move out of the picture, it's all a constant stream relative to the crunching, rendering of this. All right. So now the hand comes in, there's a keyframe there, right? And then it's kind of stationary. And then it moves a little bit, and then it drops out. All right. So now there's another keyframe. All right. So the point I'm making is that it gets like rendered based on these keyframes, ding, 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 and however many different elements, movement elements you have, it's creating more crunching, more number crunching of, oh, this is a different thing. And, we're talking about computers, right? So there's more processing of it involved. And so the more moving images you have, of higher quality, there's more processing that has to go involved, and it's a bigger size picture, right? Right. So there's a trade-off between a higher quality and it being a bigger size, right? And I have the resolution here set to a rather large resolution uh, relative to the big, like I can, if I have a bigger screen hooked up to the OBS, right? My monitor, my channel 2, my display 2, the one I have everything on, which is not the laptop. But the laptop is a 1600 by 900, right? But the monitor screen I have, the desktop I'm working off, is like a 1080 by 1920, I think it is. Right, it's what you'd have in your living room at your house, like a minimum size living room at your house. So I do everything to the high definition of that. So as long as the image isn't moving too much, it keeps the bandwidth down, and it doesn't stutter, and it keeps the size down, the bandwidth down, everything. So there's a technical, at least in theory, this is, this is the technical part of how this is working. So me as a moving image, I want that I'm the only thing moving, and I want that to be a lower resolution image than the non-moving part of this. And sometimes I play video, in that. That's whatever. That's fine. I don't do much of that. Most of what I show is a still image, and occasionally it's me moving, writing, but it's still relatively not much movement. Keyframes, right? So, as it renders keyframes, it builds up it takes clock cycles, it builds up the size of it, and so, from my, theory, what do you call it? Movie making, editing theory, that's one of the main reasons. First, like I said, aesthetics. I just like it. I just really like that old school AM quality. So I like it first and foremost because of that, because just the aesthetics, and I have these done to my aesthetics, what I like to see, looking. I'm looking right at it, right? How it'll look, generally speaking, how it'll look when it goes out there. So I have a certain aesthetics that I build these to, that I want it to look to. And so there is that first and foremost. But I like it even more because it keeps down the footprint. It keeps down the size of the video, and so it can load and unload and stream efficiently. And so even if it is kind of not streaming so well, it's still a low enough quality image that it's like, all right, it's already sort of built in with that kind of skipping, and kind of buffering effect to it, if you will. To me anyway, it's my design ethic. I thinking, believing that. So don't dishearten me from that belief. All right, let's see if I can move. All right. All right. So, and I'm still kind of putting myself where I want to be here in this. There we go. All right. More of like a fireside chat, intimate theater here. All right. So, we played more than enough music. I'm at an hour. It's about time to get into the material. All right. So this comes by request from one of the viewers, members of the group on Facebook, the Schumann Resonances group on Facebook. All right, so like I said, this one's similar to a lot of these that I've done. It's a kind of fairly complete run through, a brief of the complete. I don't know how you freaking explain it, but the complete process, like I said, and I've done enough of these to kind of know some certain things to put in, and I've kind of, this is like the state of the art essay exposition on this that I've done, I think, and it gives a fairly professional look at the whole process, right? And so in um so the name of this is Observations on the Schumann Resonance Spectrogram from Tomsk, Russia, Space Observing System at Tomsk State University. And the name that they use is a little different from this, but it's used to be Tomsk State University. Okay. And this is called the not so brief on what they are, what the S are, Schumann resonances are. All right, so some disclaimers. Uh, yeah, will let me do this? All right. So, the information comes from, and just it's important to know that this is a university. It's a public charter, and whatever the hell you think of that, I don't care. Right? It has nothing to do with them manipulating or holding back data because it's state funded, and it's not state funded. It's publicly funded. Right? Right? Publicly funded. Like it's not state owned. It's not state funded, right? There's a difference, right? Over here, over there, right? Like I don't know more about it, but that's at its basic nature. The public funding means that they have to open up the results of their studies to the public, right? But it's intended for the students over there internally. Okay, you just have to realize that yes, it's open to the public, but not necessarily for everyone equally around the world to use in the same fashion as the people it's intended for, the students, right? And the majority of other cases, even this public, the information that's made public is so that the people who need the information don't have to pay for it. And if you're interested in it, that's great and fine and wonderful, right? But in the majority of cases, these are all attached to a private university that you wouldn't be able to get access to unless you were a student, right? And so you have to understand it from that kind of different way. I've been to college. I've been to a university. I know how this works. If you're a student, you can have a lot of access to material that you couldn't otherwise if you were the public, right? And that's why they do this, and sort of like hand in hand, you need to know how to read the data. And then I will just humbly offer you for myself, that's why these places don't offer it free to the public, because if you don't know how to read it and you see some crazy anomaly on there, you start making up stuff of what it is, you're out of your depth. You're beyond your you're speaking out of your league. You're beyond your depth and making proclamations of what is on, say, the Schumann resonance spectro by saying it's gamma or X-ray or ascension or blah, 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 or any of that. That's beyond what it measures. That's not for you to say. That's not for you to impart on that, right? That's why the data is not made readily available to the public, because you need to be trained in how to read the data based on you going to class and seeing the antenna and seeing what the antennas actually do, right? Like having worked on them. That's the only way you properly can read and interpret and decipher and decrypt any and all of the data that's on the spectrogram. This thing here, the spectrogram, where is it? The picture of this right here. So, right, the data, the only way that you can possibly know, unless you listen to my show, the only way that you could know how this works properly is by being in an educational environment or volunteering at one of the sites in Italy that picks up the seismic and information as well as the VLF, and they explain it to you from that perspective, and then you can see in there the Schumann resonances and all of that, et cetera, et cetera. Or you have an interest in radio and shortwave or something, right? But that's sort of the doorway that you got to come in to understanding these first, right? And so the information that it's coming to you from the spectrogram is intended for the students that are over there, intended for the scientifically inclined population who's interested in it, yes, so you too can monitor it, all right? However, right, no one is censoring data. I didn't put this in there, but no one censoring, manipulating data. And that's one of the biggest problems that people have with this. They see the machine gives them a big black spot, big black, band, void, and they think, oh my God, people are cooking the books, as it were, the manipulating data. And it's like, man, if you only knew how difficult it is to get a good, accurate reading and to keep these things up and chugging along all the time, you wouldn't be talking smack about these fine people from Tomsk, who otherwise do an amazing job of holding it down. The data stream that you otherwise depend on, right? You otherwise treat it like the words of God Almighty. The fuck. Anyway, it's just part of the thing, right? And that's what I do these for, is these series here, so I can give you an overall kind of presentation on the problems and constraints with constraints. All right, so I just had a sneezing attack. Sorry. So the constraints of this are that it's available free to the public, but not because it's trying to trick you with some stupid thing, like that's not what they're doing, right? I wish I just had a magic portal where I could just show people, just open it up, I could just show you, right? Just like you're watching a movie, maybe when I get to the other side, that will be a possibility. I can open up a time-space portal where I can show you this is what they're doing. We can actually watch them. You can't touch them, talk to them, interact with them anyway, but it'll just be like another YouTube channel, just I'd magically be able to do that. I'm hoping, praying, I'm pretty sure that when I get to the other side, in my new form, I can do that. However, in the meantime, don't have that magic ability. I don't know anyone over in Tomsk, but I do hope that you understand that the good people over there are presenting you with this as an educational tool, right? If you look at this, I will just give you, as part of this first paragraph disclaimer, this is why I do these videos. There's enough here that you can get in the written word, but this is why I do these, is to add a little bit more depth to these. If you personally, John Q. person watching this, is going to the Schumann Resonance data, okay, coming from Tomsk, if you're looking at this as anything more than a visual aid that assists you in understanding how the Schumann resonance works, including and including the 3 panels of information: the amplitude, the quality, and the frequency, in addition to the spectrogram. All 4 of these panels with all 12 of the modes here, the different mode of the modes, the 12 color cues, the 12 color sources that we're going by to get these pictures here. How do you get the images, right? Well, it's these 12 ding, ding, ding lines. That's what's giving you, the overall chorus, the overall symphony is these 12 instruments here, okay? Yet, however, if you are going here and looking at this as anything more than a visual aid to help you understand what this is, is, okay, if it's more than just to you, like, and this is you looking at this to determine how you feel, how you should feel, and you look at, because this is Russia. This is Tomsk Russia, okay? The middle of freaking nowhere, Siberia. Good God, it's at the halfway. It's at the other side of the world. It's 12 hours away from me. I'm on the east coast of the United States, east coast of the United States, uh, and that they're 12 hours away. That's the other side of the globe. All right, just from me. All right, personally. So, uh, if you're looking at this anything as unless you're in Tomsk, Russia, okay, that's a thing too. So if you're not there, somewhere in Asia, this is limited to no value to you relative to where you are, right? So if you're looking at this as anything other than an educational guide, and you're looking at this as a personal roadmap to how you should feel, right? You are not, like, how do I say this, right? It is, how do I say this? Okay, so this is what my guides said to me. All right. So if you're looking at this, the educational model from the institution, right? If you're looking at that as your, instead of it being an educational model, if you're looking at it as the roadmap or the directory to why you feel how you do these symptoms, right? So-called the symptoms, and I've talked about this before, then you are perhaps fooling yourself. You may be kidding yourself. You may be not looking at things you need to look at. Okay. Now, part of the problem with this, the disclaimer, part of this, I'm giving, this is all a disclaimer, is that there's a bad association with, or more of an association with, more of a linking, more of a connection of um uh, solar input, I think, solar radiance. There's a heavy belief, or a large belief, a big belief in the predominant effect of solar, direct solar influence on us, where uh where it's attached to the spikes. All right. Uh so rather than people understanding, it's, the predominant cause, the primary cause of Schumann resonances is lightning discharge. Okay. And you have to remember there's orders of magnitude more strength that comes from solar radiance, much of which gets blocked out by the ionosphere, especially in the middle of the day. Right? It builds up the ionosphere, and then what does happen is there's a forcing down of the upper atmosphere to us, right? But that also lowers the ceiling as well, which affects the barometric pressure, right? You got to remember that as well. This is something that I talk about. All right. So this is not meant to be a medical, to help you make a medical diagnosis, right? Just another way to put this is this is an educational model. It's not meant to help you give a medical diagnosis, or, for your self in your area, right? Your area may be entirely different depending on where you are, right? You cannot, a person cannot, and I talk about this, local conditions, all right? I probably shouldn't get ahead of myself, all right? But this is one of the things I talk about, is to know your local area, okay? Now, it's, you got to understand, if you're looking at the spectrogram, what it's actually showing you, what it's really showing you there, right? And you can't make stuff up, because it's just not built into the machine for people, the things that people say about it, that it's not built into it to be able to detect x-rays or gamma or any, like, blah blah blah, whatever. So this is one of the things that I'm talking about in disclaimers as well. All right. So they call this detection, they're This is information that should be used as an educational tool. Hopefully, I made this point. Educational tool to understand how the Schumann resonances work, and not to be used as a diagnosis tool for you in your area. All right. Now, there's not a whole lot of this information that's available to you. I don't know where you are, it doesn't matter. There's not much public information that's available to you for you to look at, all right? You know, for you places for you to go, all right? I don't have really anywhere to show you. And the bigger volume of information, bigger volume online of information that's available is actually on the earthquake, the VLF monitoring with the seismo, because that's, let's face it, you know, what's more important, the Schumann resonances themselves, or the electric emissions that accompany seismic break of the crustal plate. And if you're answering anything other than what what's more important, you know, than the seismic, you're not paying attention, because the seismic is more important than the Schumann resonances themselves. And there's a different magnitude that breaks, a different magnitude of electrical discharge that comes with the crust breaking, rather than just the Schumann resonances, which are the echoes of lightning, right? It's really important. It's one of the things that I already, you know, another one of the things that I talk about here in this as I'm going on. All right, so I'm getting ahead of myself. But this is putting it in context, I guess. All right. So they call this detection due to the weak nature of the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance antenna only report the local conditions, like I said, to there, all right? And it may, depending on, you know, if there's a big solar outburst or something, it's going to affect everyone on Earth, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're showing you that on their data, all right? It doesn't always show, the spikes are not necessarily solar forcing. You got to remember that. There's an ionosphere, magnetosphere, and an ionosphere that catches the stuff, and a lot of it directs it away from Earth directly. Right? And it's important to understand that. That's, the ionosphere is like a membrane that holds a lot of voltage up in the upper atmosphere. Right? So it's only, I mean, oh, good golly, it's only the ionosphere above the antenna at Tomsk that it's measuring. It can't measure anything more than 5 kilometers away. I mean, there's a practical limitation, and you got to remember, the waves have to actually hit the antenna. That's what's really important to understand about this. That there's an effective distance of how far away something can happen where the antenna picks it up. Okay? So it's not picking up something from even, 30 kilometers away. A thing from 30 kilometers away, it may not necessarily be strong enough for it to pick up, you know? So there's a lot to this. It can be very complicated, and that's why you have to understand there's limitations and parameters and constraints to the antenna. That is where I say that you need to get a monitor for your area to know what the electric content of that area is. And as a side note to this, I humbly offer you that in the to get there's a kind of disclaimer here, of within a disclaimer, that in order to get a good Schumann resonance reception from the antennas, they're very subtle, you are very likely to get some type of domestic interference. The first part, the most important part of putting up a Schumann resonance antenna is finding a good spot. right? You got to know that, right? You are very likely to find some local domestic interference, and this should hopefully tell you something. I mean, it certainly tells me something, right? I mean, they have filters on it, and there is that, but the point being that there's a lot more local to the antenna things that can show up than just the very subtle Schumann resonances. Right? That's an important point to make. It's a technical issue, a technical point that needs to be understood, for what that is. That there's a lot more, and I talk about this too. Right? Go into this as well. That there's a lot more stronger sources of radiation, EMF, and yeah, even local X-ray machines, microwaves nearby will cause a voltage spike in in the readings. If it's near enough to the spectrogram, it'll get this. Yes, it will actually corrupt the signal. Right? That's what theoretically can happen, and that's one of the things that we don't know about here on these. We see it. We don't know what local to the machines, the antennas may have interfered with a good signal coming from the machines. It's possible. An X-ray, machine, or an MRI machine or somewhere. That's you don't know unless you know exactly where the antenna is. You don't know for sure what if anything it's picking up locally. All right, so it's important to know. So the machines are good overall. These machines are good indicators general of overall world conditions. If you do, if there is, uh, atmospheric things happening, you'll see, especially more so in the Kumiania, the VLF with the seismic meter, I have to say. But that's what these things are, is indicators that something's happening, right? But you have to, right? Unless you're in Tomsk, Russia, the readings are only approximate to your area. So if you're getting something, you're wondering, oh my God, what's the Schumann doing? You have to match up your time and wherever you are. And if you're in the United States, you're half a world away from Russia, so you need to understand that as well. That even though it's an overall indicator, it's not the same as the local conditions in your area. And this is one of the things that's important, by way of our as our disclaimer, uh, local conditions. So especially if I live here in the Northeast, I live along the shoreline. uh I've pretty much lived on the shoreline all my life. And so some days more than others, you really can feel the barometric pressure, and you really, on some, you can feel your ears kind of popping. Like hard to explain it, but you feel it like, wow, holy crap. It just it's hard to explain, but it's more so on the shoreline. Because it's changing all. And it can change rapidly. It can change drastically in the course of a day. You wake up feeling pretty good, and it's a sunshiny day, and by the end of the day, it's like cloudy, and it's like today. Half the day was nice, the other half was like, oh yeah, it's cloudy, it's raining. I think it was raining earlier. So that's what you get living in the shoreline. These barometric changes. So you can't dismiss that. You can't look at what's happening in Russia and think that's going to supersede your local area. It depends on where you live. And there are places where there's different conditions, where the local conditions are much more, prescient, much more evident than, a calm day in Russia. All right. You just got to remember that, So it may be calm over there, but there's something happening where you are. And especially if you have a lot of a lot of industry around you or something like that, or, power lines or whatever. Barometric pressure, especially if you live along the coast, like I said, barometric pressure makes a bigger difference on how you physically feel rather than the atmospheric electromagnetics in a lot of cases. Excepting adverse conditions like hail, where you get pummeled by the hail, rain, etc. The expression they use is on a fair weather day, right? Additionally, sources of strong electrical output, like power lines. I grew up in the town that I grew up in. They had a power plant. It was a nuclear power plant. All right. And so on a really strong day in the summer, I could hear the power lines hum and sing. And, it's, you can feel it when you're near them. You can just, it's a thing. You hear them, you know, it's like those are the main high tension lines that they run, way out, way out there. So, all right. So, this author, myself, me, all right. So I talk about this before, I'll talk about it now. I have decades of hands-on practical experience with radio, television, broadcast studio with a public access in my hometown, as a DJ and a tech at the college radio station where I got my associates, building, repairing PCs, um, the hardware and figuring out the software. I have some experience with the script. They showed me how to do JavaScript, and no one should ever have to. That's horrible. I'm not really a software guy. So I still use Premiere Pro. Whenever I edit, there's a I like using it. I like doing that. But I'd rather just not have to edit the videos and just kind of, hit it, quit it. Do the best I can, one take if I can. Pause liberally. Um, when in doubt, hit the pause. Audio editing and Audacity, I still use that. Alex, I've do that stuff with Alex. GarageBand, I have I've they showed me how to use that. I don't use it. I did capture systems with the uh, photographic company in Connecticut, in Norwich, as the fixed the and worked on the digital capture systems. There's a, a camera, digital camera with a scanner, an OCR scanner, a little computer, a tablet computer. Had to get everything to fit into the box. So I also, so I have this kind of, and there's just a lot more. I have a lot of technical training in this, and I also have experience with technical writing and all of this, and I was going to be an engineer, but there's way too much math involved. I'm not a math guy. Um, and so I've talked about this before as well. So there's two parts to this, right? There isn't, but there kind of is, right? There's the science and the technical, the engineering. There's math. I'm not the math person. I don't do the abstract equations, but there's a lot of that could be involved. I don't do. Um, and then there's the people that come here for the Ascension part, who go over to the channel for the Ascension and the Facebook group, because there's just an Ascension thing. And, it's just, as we go into the Aquarian age, there's a lot of waking up and there's a lot of wokeness, and people going woke because they want to, kind of get on the bandwagon, and woke is a joke, and so, relative to what's really happening, I'm a volunteer here, right? So I I know things from a much different way than everyone else, pretty much, And so the ascension is finishing your contract. All right, you have the soul contract coming into this. You finish your contract, but you got to work, and so you know you might need to do a YouTube channel, right? That was part of helping me to send the graduate. It's graduate, basically. You fill your contract after people pass on, right? This is important too, like this is one of those bittersweet things that, well, as people pass on and you're left alone, you're essentially, they're helping you to finish your contract, right? That's part of it as well. The contract also includes the karmic connections you have with people that you got to work out, right? So when someone passes on, well, you're stuck dealing with that, right? It's not quite over. You're mourning their loss. You're mourning, fuck, the things I didn't say, right? You weren't there when you knew they were sick, right? You got to work it out in a different way now, right? It's a whole different thing. But if you were there, like me, when they're on their deathbed and you said things you had to say, whatever, and you helped usher them over into the next world, like my stepmom Ellen, psychopomp, right? Here's a consideration for you. Oh, geez, how'd you finish your contract so early, and you're not in your 90s, and how'd you get that? Well, you sit there at the death of your stepmom and watch her as she's wasting away from cancer, and tell her it's okay. You can go. You were a great person. You did what you had to do. You married my dad. You took care of us, right? Like that's how you get to finish your contract fucking early. Is you get to say goodbye to people. Right? There's a trade-off. Right? So that's how. Right? Yay for me. Right? Woohoo! Finish my contract early. I'm still alive, right? But in order to ascend, you have to finish your contract, right? And the contract completion is the ascension, at which time you may request, right? And I've done this a few years ago now at this point. You can request passage through the solar portal, uh, through which permission I have to enter when it's time. I've earned it, right? You gotta ask. You gotta know. You gotta ask this, right? Otherwise, you recycle here. But you got to have done the contract, and people don't finish their contract. They don't know you have one. They don't know they're supposed to be working on anything. They flop around like a fish on the beach. Like, what am I supposed to do here? I don't know. It's pointless. It's aimless. It's pointless. Everything's pointless. It's meaningless. Well, I guess you're not finishing your contract then. I guess we'll see you next lifetime. Flopping around as a paraplegic. Maybe you figure that out then. What your purpose being here is. I don't know. Whatever. It's not up for me to decide that. Whatever. It's not for me, right? Whatever you get, whatever you earned, right? You can earn it, right? Um, and so, at a certain point, the clay body will be done, the message will be done, whatever. But, in the meantime, this is extra credit for me. So I don't get any extra credit from whether or not anyone learns something, right? My part in this is to present the message clearly, right? As clearly as I can, and to be the the emissary of pure light, the pure light of the avatar, pure light avatar source, right? To bring you the message clearly. And, like that's in order to be able to touch source, you gotta have send it up there, right? So, I have all this technical knowledge here, which you gotta know when you gotta know it to know when you're being manipulated with the vocabulary and with the intention of what people think this is supposed to do, right? You have to be able to, look at this stuff from the technical understanding, uh, and not be fooled by people who are running a game, the jargon, and running the ascensionist game on you, and you don't know better. You don't know otherwise, right? It takes someone smarter than the predator to catch him. Just put it that way. I don't know a better way to put it than that. The predators are the high frequency ones operating at the high brain frequency. They're smarter than you. The psychopathic, sociopathic, narcissistic ones, those operate at a higher frequency than you. They're smarter than you. They outfigure you. They look at you. They imitate you. They're the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? So, in order to be able to catch the smartest of the bunch, you've got to be smarter than the smartest to be able to tell the sheep where the wolf are, right? The the shepherd knows the wolf in sheep's clothing from the sheep. Put it that way. You may not be sheep. You may be the wolf. I don't know. Or you may be part of a flock. You may be part of something else, but it's still the same thing. That the one, the guide, the guard, the guardian, the bearer of the 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 truth has to be smarter than the manipulators, right? Because it's the biggest part of what the du jour operating system of human, split mind of humans is the fuckery. Right? Just, I don't know how to better put it than that, right? So that's why it's important to give these kind of disclaimers of what it's not, is to say, is to give the parameters of what it is not. And it's, I know I keep kind of hopping ahead, and I'm going to be talking about some of this stuff a little bit later, but, as part of the disclaimer of what these things aren't, it's like there's this kind of buffer that I need to put up in words to explain, what's not happening here. I think that's the best way to put it. Okay. All right. So that actually brings us up to the next portion. The disclaimers are done. I've well given over enough time to the whole disclaimer portion of the program. So now it's the material, the actual material itself. I mean, I've been on the material, but that's a disclaimer, the preface, I guess. I always do these prefaces, and that's the disclaimer, I guess, is the preface. So this is kind of the introduction part. I didn't put it this way. This is a little different thing, but I guess this would be the introduction. But I'm going to play like 3.5 minutes worth of music, lap dance length, I guess, or cigarette length if you got them. We got any music here? Yeah. All right. So I will meet you on the other side of the mix here, and onward and upward. Okay, so it's probably going to be a little bit more than 3 minutes. You're in the house. Yeah, indeed. All right. Bring it on home. Okay. Let's take a breath. Go back. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me and sticking this out. You know, we're at an hour and almost hour and 3/4. All right. Thank you for being here. Okay. So, good, bad, or otherwise. All right. I see my voice is clocking the meter. All right. So, we're back. All right. So, this is more along the lines. I don't think I've ever done one of those disclaimers when I do the Schumann Resonance's observations report like this, but I like it. Like I said, this is kind of the concrescence, I think, of all the ones I've done up to this point, where I know enough about the subject to give the disclaimers. You know, generally speaking, disclaimers come from some, experience of probably multiple experiences where like the courts have had to, step in and, make the manufacturers give disclaimers because this thing may kill you, may cause death, so don't use it the wrong way. For example, jack stands, good example, a lot of things like that, for example. And so, so like that's the disclaimers part is just, like I said, that comes from experience. Like pretty much all disclaimers come from experience somewhere, like that's why they printed them, why they felt the need to print it, to give you your limitations, your constraints, as it were. Yeah. So, say more about that, but I'm not going to. All right. So, we're looking at some simple insights, and some of these are guiding principles. But like I said, I mean, I've done a lot of reading specifically on the Schumann resonances, in the last couple years. But before this, I have a lot of experience with related, kind of radio. That's why for me, this is, this is really easy enough for me to grab this because I have a lot of basics, fundamentals already down first. Okay, this is what's really important, and this is what, another name that I could give this is building the basics. Like that's kind of what one of the things I'm looking for when I do these is to help give people some of the more basic information that they need that's of a technical nature that they wouldn't otherwise have, because again, with the educational experience, you're paying for it. Okay, you're involved in a course, classes, a university where you're learning technically. You have hands-on technical experience, and unless you are someone that is working in a lab or has gone to school or otherwise, worked in the industry or volunteer your time, there's not many places where the average person would run into spectrograms and the filters, audio, like attenuating filters and chokes, what they call a choke or a passover, a crossover rather, not Passover. That's a different thing, but a crossover is where it goes from one octave to another, and you have another filter that takes place. It's the certain filter for a certain spectrum doesn't work anymore. There's another filter you have to get for a different spectrum, like a band pass filter, they call it, right? So unless you have had practical or in like high school, formal education of some type, and there are, like in high school, I took the electronic music course, which told us a lot about waveform. There was a Korg, I believe. There was a poly. There was a symphonic. There was different, early electronic music equipment that had dials. It was all analog. So I learned a lot about sound formed, wave, attack, decay, from the sound perspective, harmonics, all of that. We talked about that in the electronic music course, right? So some people come into it with this of having like a practical related music experience. Like, okay, So, uh, I try to keep, because this is public and this is all information for public, I try to keep this at a simple level so that, from my own personal experience of in radio and all of this, so that people can understand it and have the basic principles behind a lot of this technical stuff that they wouldn't otherwise have from someone, like, unless you yourself have had this experience, and these, it's not out of the range for someone to work at public access, or someone to be a musician, have a musician friend, go to, learn about some of this from music class, related stuff in music class, like come into it with some kind of an understanding. It wouldn't, it's not beyond the range of possibility. However, like, I have a bunch of decades experience in not only that, and this and that. I've always been interested in this stuff, Mr. Whiz. I prefer to read than to talk with a lot of people. And I would rather read nonfiction. I'd rather read, service manuals on stuff, I think, than anything else. Certainly People magazine or Cosmo, or, you know, give me a magazine called Speaker Builder, I subscribe to Speaker Builder, like, and that's just my thing. I've always been a techno geek, difficult with people and personalities and all of that. But really great with electronics and things that I don't have to reason with and talk with and figure language over and all of that. So I have a much greater affinity for the technological devices than I do for people. I mean, I am personable and I'm charming. I can be. Great smile. Like, I have it's not that I'm not people, like, I'm not painfully shy. I can have a good time, but uh, I prefer time with the bicycles. Like, that's a technology. So, and so, hey, yeah, that's part of the reason why doing videos are difficult. Even though I'm not talking with someone, there's a number of you I'm thinking of when I do these, right? So I have to build it up into myself, that I'm reminding I'm not just, I didn't just build a studio to build it. I built the studio to produce videos. Now that the studio's done, technically done with the hardware and the equipment, you know, Alex absolutely was amazed and the way he saw how I had it laid out. He was just like, "Wow, holy fuck!" I'm like, this is what I was doing in Connecticut when I was making videos. You have everything laid out, a little screen here, everything's spaced out. It's got a look. It looks, you know. So these are things that I've talked to him about, and this is the studio. I'm trying to find my. There you go. Nice. All right. So, look at that. All right. I'm lucky once again. All right. So, because I really like this shirt. You see, I am lucky. My bicycle. I have a new to me bicycle rescue I got in the neighborhood. And it was in the backyard lot of the house behind one of the houses I work on, and it was upside down, and it had gotten rained on. It was out there for a while. I put a new wheel on it, and it's, overall, the crank's been went loose. I almost lost that, just I had to walk the bike back up, and the seat broke. Not the whole seat, just the bolt holding the seat in, and I fell off the bike and landed on my knee. And then the granite that I was moving, well, actually, it's a good thing it fell on my leg, because it probably otherwise would have cracked. And so I'm glad it didn't break my leg. Like 60 pounds of granite marble slabs that I'm using for edging at the bakery. And it fell on me. The bike fell over. I fell over. The bike fell over, and so I'm damaged. I'm on disabled, damaged for a couple days. Oh my! And there was a little girl that saw it. Get 50. She's like 10, 11, and she's like, "Oh my God, are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And she was like, "Oh, can I help you?" And the seat, like it was no longer attached. I'm like, "Here, take this and throw it over there. I don't ever want to see it again." And I picked up a broken bolt and all that. Like, oh man. So I limped home. I put the marble in, put it all in. They all loved it over there. They love me. But like, all right, now I'm limping home now. So I'm on damaged, disabled list for the day. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Anyway, so onward and upward. That's my the bikes. My other life of the technology of what I would do if I wasn't doing the Schumann resonances is I would be fixing more bikes. The technical. I love doing tech stuff. And because people need this, right? They need bikes. I need a bike, but like this really benefits more people. Like, it's online. I don't know. It was 21,000 in the YouTube, the Facebook group, rather, So anyway, all right. So these are from I'm giving some simple insights from this is all from my experience working in this, but these are some tips sort of also on how to read this stuff. And, just like I said, I've done a bunch of these, and this is sort of the thumbnail version of all or the digest brief, the not so brief, the digest, sort of more what it is of the the scripts I've written basically on this topic. What are the Schumann resonances, and how do you read the data and the machines, the graphs and all that. All right, so that's by request. So so anytime I do an observations, and even if I just post, I always give all the 4 panels. All right. So those are from the top to the bottom. It's a first it's the spectrogram, then it's specifically the Schumann resonance spectrogram, then amplitude, quality, and frequency. All right. So it's on top to bottom. It's that order. The spectrogram is a plotter which manufactures or generates an image representing a 3-dimensional model of the atmospheric electromagnetics. The following line graphs are literal detection data. So it's it isn't necessarily the raw data, but it's, I call it the raw data after it's been filtered. So right from the literal, the dependencies, the literal, information that the spectrogram uses, that it plots the image from. All right. The dependency. All right. So the following line graphs are the literal detection data from the actual antennas. And those are referred to as the dependency information. The dependencies are what the spectrogram is plotting as if of itself. So the spectrogram of itself isn't detecting any data, right? It's manufacturing the data, a picture, right? The spectrogram, this right here, it's manufacturing that data, right? This image, based on the 3 panels below it and the 4 colors that it picks from, okay? So that's important to understand that the spectrogram isn't absorbing anything. It's not receiving, it's not detecting. It's only giving you a qualitative view, not the quantitative view, right? There's 2 different channels, 2 different things, 2 different happenings happening there, right? 2 different happenings happening there. I like that. I want to make that. I may make that. Hold please. Hold please. System processing. Please wait. Okay. There's 2 different happenings happening there. All right. So that's where I'm at with the difference between the spectrogram and the Schumann, right? There's ne'er the twain shall meet. It's, I think, the expression they use in the Psalms or Proverbs or some shit, or in the Bible. So I've talked about this before, gone into this before. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's a difference between the Schumann, what they call the Schumann, and the spectrogram. Okay, and the first and foremost thing is the spectrogram has its dependencies, which is the four panels all together. All right, a person, you, me, the observer, I couldn't know what the spectrogram is doing without its dependencies. Okay, it's that simple to me, right? The three axes, and to give me the picture of what I'm looking at. Okay, it's like trying to diagnose a car problem over the phone, if you will. I don't know how to better put it. But over long distance, you got to look at it, you got to see it, right? So it's the actual data, or looking at the tires. Do I need new tires? When I worked at the automotive place and people would come in, do I need tires? Like, well, let me go out and look at them. Let me measure them, Let me see the measurements and let me see the pattern, the wear pattern, okay? It's a lot similar to over here with a wave. Let me look at the wave pattern, like, I don't know what's going on. Certainly you can't look at just a spectrogram by itself and know what's happening properly, right? Whereas, however, in contradistinction, yet, there is the Schumann, okay, and that is the spectrogram by itself. The Tomsk, same one I use, Tomsk, but they go to the website and they pull it off of Tomsk and they, give you that, and it's fine enough. However, they're not giving you, with those that call it the Schumann, it's never given with the dependency data. Because, of course, that goes with the spectrogram, and who calls it that? Only the technician, the etheric technician, this guy here, right? I know what it is, know what it's called. That's the technical term. I've worked with this, but as the world is more and more unhinged, who cares, right? The magnetics are swapping, the world's changing, breaking down. Who cares, right? Just call the Schumann. What do you care? I don't know. Whatever. Fuck me, who knows? But for the technician, this guy here, right? I care, and I'm giving you the proper way to do this because I'm sitting here with the pure light of the avatar of Source, right? Like, just we both, me and God, we care, right? I don't know if anyone else does. Well, there's a 10 of you that care, obviously, but and Mr. Scrappy, he, here somewhere. And so you got to get it right. Me, got to get it right, right? And so this is what we're where we're coming at here. So with the Schumann, the expression the Schumann, comes a whole otherworldly stuff, a bunch of other stuff that isn't attached to what spectrogram does, right? It's a whole world of difference between the two. And it's one's what we might call the Aquarian Age view of things, and the other is the New Age. And the New Age is not the Aquarian Age. I assure you that, right? People confuse those two terms, the Aquarian protocol, the Aquarian Age, with the New Age. It's not. They're not the same. I can talk to you. I have talked about this in places. This is not the time or the place to talk about this. However, I have given my ascension credentials. This is postgraduate work right here. Extra credit for me. Yeah. Good for you. Good for me. And so, so I'm able to talk about this. I'm able to discuss this lucidly in time and place, and I have. And this isn't necessarily the place for it because I'm just giving a basic breakdown. This is just a brief, and I've already gone into this in other places, and so I don't want to, dedicate more time on just this discussion between the two of them, of the difference between the spectrogram and the Schumann and why they're not, those two phrases aren't interchangeable, why the Aquarian Age is not interchangeable with the New Age, and all these kind of things. And in time I may go more into just those aspects. I think I'll put that the back burner of, something that I'll go to, because I don't think I've written about it, but I don't think I made a video on it. All right, so indeed, I'll put that up as a bookmarker. That I really do need. I think I really do need to make a video of that because I've talked about it and I've discussed it in other places, and to kind of put that in context of the bigger picture of why it's important. You want to use the word, hey, the phrase. I'm not the police here. I'm not gonna, condemn you for using it, but yet, however, just understand, like, there's a part of getting things to foul up in the, going forward is messing up the vocabulary and not, and us not having a clear picture, a clear idea of what the phrase is. What's that grounded? It's got to be grounded in something. What is it grounded in? As the world becomes unhinged and the polarities swap, right? You have to be grounded. And so that's why your phrase and the rhetoric has to be grounded as well. So what's it grounded to? How's it grounded? Right? These kind of things. So these are part of what we're looking at. How is the phrase? Because the next one over is beware of rhetoric, right? And I think that's really important to understand is the role of rhetoric in bogging down the mind, your mind, the collective mind. The Schumann resonance has little or nothing to do with collective consciousness, especially not as people think it does, because collective consciousness is something altogether different than what people think it is, okay? And yet, were it what people think it is, the radio carrier wave of collective consciousness, right? There is a part of that that is stuffed up, that doesn't work if you have the wrong idea of what what this stuff is, technically on the ground level of how it works and what the spectrogram is showing you. Right? I think that this is really important, of not being duped by your own technology. Right? Like, oh, you're looking at the graph, you're looking at the, like, oh, the Schumann, and you're looking at the graph and then coming up with a bad conclusion from it based on poor ideas of what everything is. You're misleading yourself through rhetoric, through the beware of the rhetoric. The spectrogram isn't the thing that detects the data. And so anything, measurable thing, like, say, a gamma X-ray, anything, whatever, right? Anything. Ascension energy, whatever, right? Can't even call them waves or whatever, anything that said, this, the Schumann is blah, blah, right? It's not, right? You've added a rhetorical quality that doesn't of itself factually, scientifically, technically actually exist, right? You just, made up attachments to what, the Schumann does, right? By calling it the Schumann, you can add anything to it, the kitchen sink, right? Everything, anything, everything. It gets attached to it. My headaches, my diarrhea, my nausea, the Schumann, right? It's, like, become, what I explain, what I have said is it becomes deified. It has become deified, right? All of it, right, has become deified. The earth is conscious, right? The earth, the planet is conscious, and they call it the Schumann. I think that may be the best way to put it. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I think that gives you a good picture, a good idea of how I'm processing this in my head, right? Okay, so I'm kind of working on this as I'm going along. And so this is all these different versions I have posted different places. I work on them. Some are a little bit more, kind of uh, advanced further along than others, but they all have little different versions of them. So even if you call it the one on WordPress, it's going to be a little different than the one on Patreon, and chances are, it's for the most, because that's part of my Mars and Virgo nature. Mars is at war with the organization of, Virgo. Like, yeah, I'll do it my own way when I want, whatever. Yeah, all right, sort of matches up. Like, I don't know, whatever. So it just is a full kind of, well, what the heck is it? A plethora, I guess. It's not the word I was looking for, but it's a different versions of this stuff. All right, and so this will be a unique one here to these guys. It's part of the one here that I'm doing here with the video. All right, so as I'm going to read this, then I'm going to go on a music break for a little bit. All right, so uh, all right, so the Schumann is not the spectrogram, or Schumann is not the spectrogram. The spectrogram doesn't, collect data, it doesn't detect data, but people think the Schumann does, and it doesn't. Like that's what the big huge difference of this is. And so it can be misleading to downright deceptive to give you just the spectrogram by itself, call it Schumann, and then turn around and just start giving it these, associate this data with it that's nowhere close to anything that the antennas pick up, and just totally, you know just as the poles shift, everything's becoming more and more unhinged. And so the greater reality of what things have been scientifically, technically, all of that, it's just uprooting, uplifting. Everything is up and down, and it's one of the things. So, I'm giving you the accepted technical realities of what all this has been. You can use the data as you see fit to use in your own way. All right. So, but me and Source, me hearing God, the God of my understanding, just a pure light. That's all, right? Pure light of Source. That's it. There's no picture of anything else other than just purest light. That's God, right? So, beware of the rhetoric. There's many quasi-scientific terms and concepts of rhetoric being tossed around in order to get some screwy ascensionist narrative, validation, and legitimacy. Such terms are gamma, X-rays, ascension energy, incoming white light, rising frequencies, and whatever dimensional thing from the central sun, which is home to me, 5D, 6D, 7, whatever D, etc., even scalar waves. All right, that's a thing. They exist. Are they showing up on the information, the graphs and charts from Tomsk? Probably not. Right? Doubtfully so. So there's a number of jargonistic pseudoscience terms being associated with the peaks and the spikes and the anomalies of the spectrogram, which are not actually technically grounded in anything quantifiable. All right. So these terms that people are using, largely, by and large, that I've seen, the ascensionist jargon, okay, this ascension energy, incoming, blah, 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 white light, the, it of itself is meaningless, right? It really is. Like if you have an actual technical meaning for this is technically, like you could explain it to me, like good on you, and I'll listen. I'm willing to, contemplate whatever you got, whatever you can show me. Okay. However, there's a greater picture going on with the rhetoric. And the rhetoric is basically hot air speak, hot air talk that's not grounded in anything, right? It's only a theoretical language. It's not attached to a real thing. It's just imaginary. Like there's imaginary numbers. Well, they're imaginary words. It just exist in an imaginary state of rhetoric, right? And a lot of people hold on to it as having meaning when it really doesn't. And it only has meaning by association of how you use it in a sentence, but it of itself doesn't have a grounding in tech or science or something quantifiable. Right? There's no quantifiable meaning to it. And if you look up these terms, they don't exist in a dictionary, right? There's not any, like that's part of the rhetoric, the beware of the rhetoric, and I even go one step further here of beware the con job, right? Of the fuckery that's involved in a lot of this stuff that is misleading, right? I I think that's the best way to put it. I'd like to put it some other way, but it's misleading at best, and shuck and jive, con job. It's at its worst, the con job of why it's been this whole, like, there's a narrative attached to it, why it's been released out into the public. Talk about conspiracy theories. Well, this isn't exactly a conspiracy theory, but it's the cover story, not a conspiracy, but a cover spiracy. It's just a whole line of rhetoric that's not actually true. It's not technically accurate. It's not true. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold weight. It's a deck of cards. You blow it and it knocks over. That's what a lot of this stuff, this narrative is, right? So it's important to be able to, sort through what's what and to know where and when you're being conned. If you want to go with the con or whatever, if once you know, then it's up to you. Then then you figure it out on your own. Or you figure out how you're going to deal with that on your own. But it's just for me to kind of point it out where I experience this stuff doesn't add up, right? And that's what the job here is at the moment. So one of the smartest people I know, Dave Hess, he said, in all interactions with people, beware of the con. He's a used car salesman, and he knew, and he says, people can't help it but to try and get one over on, there's in everything, cutting corners. And I talked about that in some places about the rhetoric, beware the rhetoric, and don't be misled by words without any meaning, right? So there's no substitute for the work of cleaning or clearing. All right. The earth, nor no one else can do it for you or for me. Okay. Nothing is automatic with growth of the human, especially spiritual growth, spiritual enlightenment. This is not being broadcast automatically by the Schumann Resonances. They're not doing this. They're not working with, like, they're helping you with your collective consciousness. And there's a lot of other things that have been attached to the rhetoric of the Schumann Resonances, and they're just not doing that, right? That's not what their gig is, all right? They do other things, right? And we can talk about that, and that's fine, and I have, and that's great and groovy. Yet, it's important to understand that the Schumann Resonances are in the pico range, and they're in the background, all right? So, this is where, we're good God. All right. So this is gonna be a long video and whatever. All right. I'm going to play some more music, gotta have the music to break it up. I personally need the music to break it up, so, and I think what I might do is pause this and go to the store and get some ice cream. I don't know. I may. Thinking about it. I have Doritos here, but I think I need some ice cream. Or maybe, or at least some little Debbie's donuts, little mini donuts, I'm not sure if I'm just talking about this or if I'm talking myself into it. Because I really do need some ice cream. Last time I put it was like half an hour trip to go over there and back. I'm not doing that. It's already long enough as it is. 2 hours. Not 2 hours. Oh my God. Oh, please. Aha. Actually, this is long enough. I'm going to make it into 2 videos, I think. Part 1 and part 2. All right. So, I think that's a much better idea. So I'm going to play some music and then shut it off. And then that'll give me the part, like I think I'll work on it like that, and then I'll start on part two, and then I think that's a great idea. All right. So all in favor? Aye. All right. The ayes have it. Okay. Yeah. A 2.5 hour video is long enough, definitely. All right. So, without much further ado, all right. So I'm not sure how long I'll play this for, but that's my outro. It's like 2.5 hours, my max on this video. All right. So gives me 13 minutes of music, roughly. All right, all in favor of 13 more minutes of music? All right. My video. That's I'm not sure he has fucking know. Okay, I'm not gonna let it play exactly 2.5 hours, but probably another like minute more or something. On that cheery note, this has been fun and interesting. And this is definitely long enough for two parts to this. And thank you for being here. I appreciate the support, all the love and the support from everyone. And I guess I will see you in the chat when I post this as a premiere, because this is definitely premiere length. You know, it's almost 3 hours, close to 3 hours. Yeah. Anyway, all right. On that cheery note, thank you all for being here, and much love. Thank you.